Well, in this video I'm going to show you how I finish the spindles. And of course the spindles I'm doing are the ones with the go with the double bobbin turnings, and they have a groove right there. So I'll be showing you how I cut the tenon, how I smooth it down, and then I'll be cutting the groove in it. So let's go and get a spindle out of the kiln. It's been in my light bulb kiln for enough time to be dry, and time where all the measurable moisture is taken out of it. So it'll be time to shape it. So the last time we saw the spindles, they were green. I just roughed them out with a drawknife, and I let them sit around the shop for maybe a week or so and lose some of the excess moisture, and then stuck them in the kiln. And my kiln runs off of 200 watt light bulbs, runs about 150 degrees, something like that. And I've got parts for other chairs in here, but the the legs for this chair are up here. I'm just drying those tenons right now before I shape them. And here's the spindles for the chair. So got 7 of them there. And so I'll go over to the chair. We'll take a look at it in the chair, and then we'll go to the shaving horse and start working on it. Okay. So as I said, the day that I whittled these out, that groove makes an arc, and so when I measured for all of these, I dropped or I came up 1/8 of an inch from here, and then just a 1/16 there, so it would flatten out there in the center instead of having an apex. So I've got all of these. So all these are now numbered 1 through 7. So I know exactly where that mark is, and which one's center one and which one's the outside ones and all that. So that's about it. Now I'll just go to the shaving horse. First thing we'll do is shape the end of the tenon there and get it ready for the 1/2 inch hole that's in the seat. Alright, so stick it in the shaving horse jaws there, and I got a little bevel down knife here. So I made this into an octagon, but it's shrunk now, and it didn't shrink exactly even because it shrinks more in one plane than it does in another. So first thing I'll do is just kind of reshape the octagonal, and there we go. And now just going to kind of methodically take cuts off. Now I like to use a draw knife here instead of a spoke shave because I just feel like I have much more control over what I'm doing. And let's see, we have a little high spot right there. Okay, and now I run it through a cutter while it's still octagonal up here, so my hands can grip it better. And this is a little cutter that Alia Bazari makes. There we go. Okay, now that cutter is set a little bit larger than my 1/2 inch drill bit is, and I finish sizing it with a spoke shave cut, and that way I don't have that raw cut of that cutter showing in my chair. It's a nice spoke shave. Let's see if this spoke shave, I don't even know if this thing's set. I just grabbed it there. Yeah. So I'll start rounding it. I'm not going down on my tenon yet. So to keep from leaving little marks that the spoke shave will leave on entry, it's kind of like, to exaggerate it, it's that. And you know, you might have whittled the spindle before and seen that you get these little marks all over it, and that's from where you entered the cut with the spoke shave. I pull it back on its toe, and it's up in the, you know, blade's not touching, and as I come forward, I lower it as it's moving forward. The disadvantage to doing it like that is I always wear out the toe of my, well, you don't wear it out, but you put wear on the toe of the spoke shave, and it's always in the daggone exact same spot. I cut in the same spot every time, and I've tried to change it, and I can't, so I just go ahead and just do it the way I feel comfortable with. Okay, all of that is done now. Now, I've got a 1/2 inch hole right here, side of my shaving horse, 1/2 inch by 1 inch deep. And that's what that tenon is in the seat. So I'll just make that mark right there. And now I'm going to come down the spindle and across the tenon and just methodically take out that line. And if I have everything set right, that ought to fit just exactly right in my 1/2 inch hole I'm going to drill. Now I'm going to put the mark back on it, and I'll take it down to that line right there in the chair. Now I'll draw the, since I've cut away a lot of this line, I'll draw it back in there. Now this tenon up here is 3/8 of an inch. I'll just shape it just with the spoke shave. As you might be noticing, I like to keep my fingers right on top of the blade so I can feel it. So got one finger right on the back and another one just right above the cutting edge of the blade right there so I can feel it. And then this one will move around a little bit depending on what I'm doing, but it's pretty close right there most of the time. So let me feel what I've got. Just making sure it's round, or round enough. It's not round. And now I'll size the tenon here, but I need a 3/8 hole to size it to, so let me get one. Okay, so when I got up to go get my test holes here, I realized that I'd made a mistake. I told you that this was 3/8, and years ago it was 3/8 when back there in the 80s, and I changed it many years ago to 5/16, so I must have had a relapse there or something thinking 3/8, but it's 5/16, and that way I like just makes the chair slimmer and it's strong enough. I can get the comb a little smaller, so I'll be fitting this to 5/16. And it's a 5/16 auger bit hole. Auger bits drill just a little bit larger hole, typically. There are auger bits that drill the exact size, but you don't find them usually. And so typically they're just a tad bit larger. So that's what I'll be going after. It's an auger bit hole. So, because I've got a few 5/16 holes here. I've got a brad point, and then there's a little Craig jig bit that's smaller than a 5/16. But I'll be fitting it to this auger bit hole, and we'll see if it fits. It's just barely starting to go, and I could continue to fit that on with the spoke shade. Now, I don't want it as tight as this 1/2" tenon. The 1/2" tenon down here, I want to be able to squeeze it into the hole. You have to twist it down. But for this one, if you have it that tight, you weren't going to be able to get the chair together. So anyway, but you could just whittle it on and fit it, or Alia made me a little cutter, Bazzari made me a little cutter here, and what I use it for is not for cutting the tenon necessarily, but for giving me a target to go after. So now I can just barely take out that little bit of a shoulder that left. Okay. Let's see what that does. Yeah, so that's snug, but not as tight as this, and it's not sloppy. So we're ready there, and now I'll just redraw my line, and I'm going to cut this groove that's here, and I cut it with a I used to cut it with a chainsaw file right here on the shaving horse, and that was no fun at all, but it did a good job. And then one day I had a student here, and he said, "Can't you carve that?" And I said, "I don't think so," and he carved it, and it's the way to do it. So that's what I'll do. I'll carve it, and so I'll go over to the other side of the bench here and get that set up and show you how to do that. Okay, so I cut this with the same chisel that I do the gutter and the seat with, and it's one I have is made by File, and their number on it is an 11.7. I think they sell it as a Vayner, but there you can see what the profile looks like, so I just have it pushed up against this block right there, and then just one clamp on it there, and I start as low as I can, and then just kind of wiggle. Yep. Just kind of wiggle it and go around. Red oak's kind of crude. You go from the early wood that you just kind of blow through to the late wood. Kind of go, okay. Let's see. Now just turn it. I could have turned it further, but that's okay. So I'm starting up here. It makes for a nice groove. Paints up nice too. Yeah, I usually paint it a different color in the chair. Like on the chair that I've been showing you, it's painted red, barn red. Really makes it look good, and hides all your imperfections of your groove that you've cut. It'd probably look pretty good to cut with a V tool, but I've got one, but I've never tried it. Match the turnings more. And there you go. It's fairly pleasant operation, just standing up here. And so that spindle's finished. You know, looking at it and critiquing it, I think I might want to take a little bit more out right there and give it just a little tighter of a waist coming down. I don't know. It's got a little bit of one, but maybe just a little bit more. And other than that, it's finished. Nice spoke shave finish on it. It'll paint up great. So, okay, that'll be it. Next thing, I'll be moving back to the comb and working on it.